All right, guys, I'm here with Lex from Solvent Direct. Lex, why don't you give us a rundown on what and who Solvent Direct is?
Sure. Yeah, we're a one-stop shop supply chain. So lab supply engineered specifically for extraction. Same and next day deliveries in most mature markets. Gas, chemicals, media, and dry ice are kind of the four key product categories. And the convenience of having that all delivered on one truck. So we call that the power of one phone call, one delivery, one invoice, keeping your lab operational and not too worried about when the next delivery is coming because we're on time.
Cool. So other than delivering one day and having the one answer, what sets Solvent Direct apart from everybody else?
Well, we're exclusively servicing extractors. So I know a lot of your audience knows this, but we are not catering to other industries. So when you see alcohol shortages and some distributors are focused on food, beverage, medical, pharmaceutical, flavor industries, the allocations will go to their big clients like beverage manufacturers, and all of a sudden cannabis can't get any alcohol. So the ability to really cater specifically to extractors gives us the ability to make sure that we always have inventory minimums that are specifically for the operators. And then, so just keeping the supply chain strong, but then also curating a catalog of product that's going to meet or exceed industry standards. So when it comes to the gas, which we all know about, doing things to ensure that we're not compromising the purity standards. We're going above and beyond to make sure that we keep extractors specifically safe and supplied.
How do you do that with the gas?
We all talk about it. Two things. Number one, making sure that you source high purity products. So it's the same thing on the chemical side, right? Making sure that you've got reputable vendors that you can trust, that are taking their extra steps to make sure that those products not only are being brought in at the right purity standard, but then the supply chain is maintained all the way down to the end user. On the chemical side, we've seen this for 65 years. It's very common that when you bring chemicals into a manufacturing plant that they're tested before they come in, and then they're put into packaging that meets the standard. They use fill lines that meet the standard. Everything meets the standard of that possibly food and beverage grade chemical. On gases, it gets really interesting because we've got a high purity product, but we use reusable cylinders. So whether it's LP gas or high pressure nitrogen, whatever it might be, you've got this need to reuse those assets because they're expensive cylinders. Cleaning the cylinders is what we started doing that is different from everybody else. And so you come in with a high purity product, you fill it into cylinders that have been cleaned, and then you know that what comes out the other end is going to be consistent with what you should have. Filling cylinders without cleaning presents a little bit of a risk because you could have backflow into that cylinder. You could have accumulations inside of that cylinder of dangerous petroleum, we're talking petroleum byproduct. And then also the corrosion or the damage that could happen inside of the cylinder. So those three things are great reason to decontaminate and essentially clean and evacuate and dry cylinders before refilling them. That way you know the product that came into the plant that's going into that consumer packaging is meeting that same standard.
How do you clean your tanks?
We call it three-phase decontamination. It's to devalve it, step one, take that full-length angle-cut dip tube. We give you a full dip tube so that you can drink every last drop. Drop that into a cleaning solution. There's industrial cleaners that we can use. They're solvent-based, so they can break down oils. And then that cylinder goes into a process where we actually rotate it. We put a hydrojet inside of there with scrubbers, use that same industrial solvent to clean, and then blast the inside of that thing. Also using camera scopes, we can go into the tank and look at the inside to make sure that the condition of the interior of the cylinder meets our standards. When you have heavy moisture content in LPGs and natural, NGLs, you can start to get corrosion in there. It makes the cylinder very porous, which allows sediments to sit inside of those pores. So if you're not maintaining that cylinder regularly and you're allowing the pores to corrode and create, there's a lot of risk in that. And so by reconditioning them every time, we maintain that purity standard and also have the comfort of knowing that what came in is what's coming out.
And you're cleaning these at your facility, or where do you get cleaned?
We partnered with a company called Kaplan Industries. They've been 65 years in cylinder requalifications and conditioning. They do it for all the majors. Some of the big major distributors that we all know about don't actually have the facilities to be cleaning and reconditioning. We partnered with them. They've got bulk at their facility, so we can bring in bulk. We can test, and that's something that we're working on doing more and more of to make sure that every step of that supply chain is clean. And then refilling and then taking out to end users.
So they clean it at the same spot that they fill it?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's only a single shipping step for you then. Ship it there, it gets clean filled, and then ship back?
Absolutely. It's still an extra step, right? So some suppliers are taking in customer returns, refilling them, and just putting them right back out on the shelf without verifying what might have been going on in that cylinder. And unfortunately, they're also handing you a COA from the refinery or from the bulk supplier suggesting that it's clean. That's our famous analogy to the forum about the coffee mug. If the pot of coffee's clean, but you dump it into a clean coffee mug, dirty coffee mug, how do you know that that standard is maintained or consistent? But yeah, that's a big part of what we do. Sorry, I forgot the question.
I think that answered it. Has any of your customers come up with a benzene test?
We have been testing specifically for benzene, and no. So our COA reads out detectable benzene or not detectable benzene, and then we've also been working with Bell Costa Labs, which is just a few miles from our facility in Long Beach, and we're using these new Tedlar bags that give operators the ability to crack their tank, fill the bag, it seals the bag, and then we can take that bag in for testing. So checking even that end user after cleaning the cylinder is really important. I can tell you that they were quietly testing some of our cylinders because we had operators that were all concerned. When the benzene thing really hit, everybody was concerned about it, and I think people wanted to independently verify.
Yeah, and I think if a Solvent Direct one had benzene, we would have heard about it.
Yes.
We definitely would have heard about it.
Sure.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're, maintaining that standard is really important. When we look at the chemical, we do a lot of ethanol, a lot of hexane, heptane, pentane, you name it. When you look at how food and beverage grade chemicals are processed from start to finish, it comes in a truck or a tanker, a rail car, and that's tested right there on the spot. It's then you have dedicated lines that meet the purity standards specifically for that product that fill into bulk or sometimes mixing, right? Everybody loves CDA 12A 710 solution, and they use dedicated lines. But you're maintaining it at every step. It's the catch is with the cylinders that you're reusing that.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
doesn't matter how clean it is if it goes into a dirty vessel.
Yeah, right.
Like you said.
You just don't know.
Interesting stuff. I'm glad that you're doing it, not me.
It's not fun. I mean, that extra leg of shipping is complex.
What extra leg of shipping?
Well, so again, some distributors on the industrial side historically,
like that are filling.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Are just refilling containers over and over and over.
If the cleaning was done at the filling spot, which it always is done, right?
Sure.
It's not extra shipping because the tank had to get shipped there, and then other than like moving the tank from the cleaning spot on site to the filling spot on site, they didn't have to ship it an additional step.
Here's the economics of it. So an individual cylinder, the tare weight on an LP239, the 100-pounder, we fill to 120 pounds. That cylinder's got a tare weight of somewhere around 68 to 70 pounds, depending on the length of the.
If you had to ship it back to the filling spot.
Yes.
And if the filling spot's where they also are cleaning, if they happen to be, then that was still only one ship.
Sure, but you could be taking 500-pound tanks, which is less metal. So to contain the same amount of gas, you could take a half-ton tank. So if you see a supplier that's got half-ton tanks and they're hooking them up to customer tanks, that would suggest that half-ton tank was what was shipped back to the bulk facility and refilled. You're getting about 500 pounds of gas with a lot less metal wrapped around it.
For sure.
By us sending every individual customer tank back, we're actually moving more steel or metal back and forth across the country.
Because you're saying that the other people that fill are like a intermediary filling. They've got a small fill tank.
There's lots of different ways that people could be filling cylinders. They could have a bulk tank, and when you say bulk, there's different sizes.
Yeah,
of
bigger
bulk.
than the one that you are filling.
Right. The individual consumer tank, though, becomes a little bit logistically inefficient to be shipping back and forth. We're looking at building.
But that's what you're doing.
Yes, right. It's challenging. It's why our price is a little bit higher than somebody that would be using industrial handling standards to just keep refilling them out back.
Yeah, it sounds like someone could do pretty well if they set up like a mobile cleaning service, or and they had a little or like a cleaning trailer that sat at XD or whoever it is that's got a little bulk tank that they're filling out of,
Sure.
so they could clean the tanks back in. That'd be slick.
Yeah, you've got some challenges though, right?
C1B one, I'm sure.
California is
Yeah,
going to be
California.
really tight about
You're right. Let's pick a
opening
different
tanks
state.
and cleaning
Yeah.
them. So you've got some obstacles in the way of doing that, and then also the efficiency of doing it. Building a plant that can clean cylinders efficiently is expensive,
Sure.
and you've got to have the ability to justify that expense. So by having multiple locations at Solvent Direct, we bring everything into a central cleaning plant. But what we're right now doing is looking at maybe building 2 in the country,
Sure.
so that we can reduce some of those shipping
Sure,
costs.
you're
and
not
lead
shipping them
times.
across country just
Yeah.
to ship it back. Yeah, that makes sense.
You've also got the expense of cylinders. So for every one that we sell, we've got 4.65 in rotation, which means we've got one on the truck headed to the cleaning plant. We've got
Right.
one on the truck coming back from the cleaning plant. We've probably got 1 or 2 in process.
Yeah, a couple on the truck going to those processes.
Exactly.
Yeah, or back.
So we believe taking that expense is important because it's necessary to maintain that chain of custody and not hand something to an extractor that could have benzene or crazy mystery oils that have all sorts of petroleum waste accumulations happening inside of them.
Yep.
Cleaning the dishes before every refill is important at a restaurant.
How can a consumer be sure that you cleaned your tank?
Yeah, we offer a certificate of decontamination. So just like a certificate of analysis, somebody is putting their signature on that piece of paper tied to a serial number that says, this tank has this purity. We've created the certificate of decontamination. Somebody signs a document with the same serial number, so you can line up your COA and your COD.
It's just got a date on it.
And you have a document that you can then
And
provide.
when you buy the tank, you can go online and see that or something?
Absolutely. So you can actually, we have a repository where you can look up your cylinder. Not only can you scan the QR code on the label and pull it up, have your safety data sheet as well, but you can just type in your serial numbers and all of your most recent COA and COD will pull up on that cylinder and the
Nice.
history of that cylinder. So you
How
can
many times it's been filled? How many
exactly,
times it's been cleaned?
right.
Yeah.
And under DOT law, you can refill cylinders for, it depends on the manufacturer, but around 10 years, you have to re-qualify a cylinder. That's a bit of an art form because the federal government's regulating whether or not a cylinder can go out over the road containing
it's still safe.
hazmat.
Yeah.
And so cylinder condition is very important. On the industrial side, those propane guys have been hooking them up and sending them out for years and not really taking the time. In August, the Compressed Gas Association put out, the first time they put out guidelines about cannabis extraction specifically. And what they've said is that cylinders used in cannabis extraction need to have extra care and extra cleaning done to make sure that that cylinder doesn't have backfill contamination or accumulations that would compromise that purity standard. So even these big associations that have been handling compressed gases for, 70 years or something, they're starting to realize that there's this new and to some extent unprecedented use of LP cylinders and LP gas specifically in this industry. And 7 years ago, I was doing what everybody else was doing, and I was selling it to friends and family, essentially, right? And I just didn't feel comfortable knowing that those accumulations, those sediments, those mystery oils were sitting in there when I knew there could be a better way. And that's why I searched out Kaplan, and that's why I work with them, because they're just the best. I mean, these guys really care about that cylinder maintenance. But it's the same for everything. I mean, even when it comes to media, there's a lot of, we know the big media companies, and there's a lot of alternative media companies that hit us up all the time. Hey, we got this media. And really verifying that those products are the safest and highest purity at the best cost, right? Yeah, there's some fixed cost of cleaning cylinders, but obviously our goal is to keep our customers profitable, right? Sure. And we're in this weird place with the industry right now where prices are tanking and the cottage industry suffering, and it sucks. Corporate cannabis is coming in heavy.
Yeah, but cutting corners on the gas is probably, it doesn't matter how much price is coming down if you're trying to sell benzene.
100%. And it's the same with chemicals, though, and the media. I mean, anything that could compromise somebody's system. And that's why being specific to this industry, we don't have things in our catalog that wouldn't be safe for an extractor. Everything we're looking at, those purity standards, and also vetting the vendors. We have an audit, a vendor audit system of regularly checking in with our vendors and making sure that they're maintaining those standards, so that we don't get some surprise. Somebody didn't bring in a new CEO and all of a sudden the quality starts slipping. And that's a really important process. When you look at GMP, FDA, when you look at some of these other standards, really they're the product of product liability lawsuits, right? A creative lawyer figured out that somebody did something in a process that wasn't safe, and they sued that company. And so with this industry being so new, I think product liability lawyers are probably trying to figure out where are the angles and how are they going to potentially attack somebody. So it's anybody in that supply chain is responsible. Bel Costa is actually led by a product liability lawyer. He knows about product liability. They've got millions of dollars of testing equipment, and we're going to really work with, they've got some people from Chevron and some people from the CDC that have come in to really start to look at the standards that are used in extraction. Not just finished product, not just state compliance testing of finished product, but the entire manufacturing process to ensure that things are being done safely, and find those standards that might not exist yet, so that we can hopefully prevent a company from a benzene contamination that does end up out on the shelf, does make people sick, and leads to a lot worse than what we.
Avoid someone dying and restrictions coming down that don't make any more sense than what we're
100%. And we've got this once in a lifetime opportunity to bring these products to the masses, right? We know on the coasts people like this stuff, but the middle America and the people, the housewives or anybody that might be popping pharmaceuticals, that might get a lot of relief and peace from something that's plant-based, they're just not comfortable with it yet.
Yeah, when you see on the news, people are dying of benzene.
100%. Vapegate, right?
You're right. Cannabis is dangerous.
If we don't hold ourselves to a higher level, I mean, it's really just going to hurt the industry at large.
You can see that with hemp. That's what happened with hemp. They hold themselves to any kind of standard, and they crash it right on top of their heads.
100%. I mean, we want people to feel comfortable. I love what Dosist is doing. They've given you a dose, right? The pen vibrates when you've had your dose.
Right.
It gives people certainty. It gives them comfort that what they're using is safe, right? It's not this wild west of Snoop Dogg and
regulated.
big blunts. Yeah, it's a controlled thing. And so as a part of that supply chain, I feel that we have a responsibility to deliver products that meet those standards and keep people safe over profitability.
Right on, man. That's a pretty good hill to stand on or die on.
That's what I'm doing, man.
Yeah.
You're for 'em.
Right on, man. Well, this is great. I think we've got some other. I know we were pushing late, so
yeah, all good.
Wrap it up. We got a pretty good clip out of that.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That?
Yeah. Can I give a shameless plug of the website?
Yeah, sure.
Which one's watching me? You guys can find us at solventdirect.com or at solventdirect on Instagram. Would love to earn your business.